All right. Hello, everyone. It's been a while, but I am back at least today on my Friday lunch time slot. I see Buckeye Alex is there in the chat. I'm going to hurry up so that I can get out of the way and bring Buckeye Alex up because I think you, my subscribers, you guys love Buckeye Alex more than you love me. So uh, I'm going to hurry up and get out of the way. So let me make sure I can see myself on YouTube. Buckeye Alex seems to bring out that thumbnail where the Ohio State guy is in the Michigan guy's face. That was the first time Michigan had beaten Ohio State since the Denard Robinson Brady Hope game. But Buckeye Alex seems to bring that out of my subs. Dre, Antoine, and the others. Buckeye Alex seems to bring that out. So let me see. Okay, there's the ad. Yep, I'm getting my AdSense here. Okay, and there's me. All right, I'm gonna play one of my Michigan football intros. I'm gonna just go over a few things, and then I will bring Buckeye Alex up because I know my Michigan football fans, you guys want to see him. So I'll see you on the other side of the intro. Let's go blue. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big Discussions 76 Sports. If you're watching live, please smash that like button. The likes are free. If you're watching on the playback, please smash that like button as well. The likes are free as well. And once again, shout out to Bo Lytle. Respect is earned. So if me or Buckeye Alex say something during this stream that particularly moves you, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Those are free. And why would you click on something? I don't get this about YouTube. How can people click on something and not hit the subscribe button or at least not give it a like? YouTubing is hard. YouTubing is difficult. This is not easy. People think this is all fun and games, but this is not easy. So for the work invested and out of the goodness of your hearts, please consider smashing that like button and please consider subscribing. Help me get this channel to 1,200 and over. I've been knocking on the door of 1,200 for a while. Do I got to bring Johnny Olden back? Is that what it is? Do I got to? Anyway, if you want to make a donation to the channel, the super chat is live. My Cash App and PayPal are here. You're under no pressure to do anything or throw anything in the collection plate, but that always helps. And before I jump in, and I want to jump in because I know Alex is probably on his lunch break, just like I'm on mine. I want to thank everyone who has supported the shorts. That's a feature YouTube gave us. They're really, really quick hits. You can get in and talk about the Clippers or the Nuggets or something Michigan football related really, really quickly. So I appreciate everyone who has supported those. All right. Let me jump in so I could bring our resident Buckeye up. So a couple things. So I got to go back to Ann Arbor a couple of weeks ago. So I went home. Ann Arbor's my second home. And I got some new Michigan gear. And I was hoping to go in the big house. It used to be that one of the doors was open, so you could go in the big house. but I drove by and I took some pictures. It looks like they're doing some construction on the sign. Normally there's a big maize and blue M up there, but they're doing some construction on it. Ann Arbor has changed quite a bit. There's so much building there. I almost didn't recognize certain parts of it. But anyway, I got to go back to Ann Arbor. And as I'll describe as I go through the schedule really, really quickly, I might chase the team a little bit this year. Yeah, I plan to go back for at least one game. Maybe we'll go back for the Ohio State game, but some of the other places I've never been, like to uh, some of the places out in flyover country, I might go check those out this year. I might go up to East Lansing this year. I might, yeah, so I might chase the team this year. Okay, so what's new? What's new? I'm gonna go over. I thought I had the rankings queued up here. Darn it, I don't have the rankings, the preseason rankings. Give me a second here. Wow, it's hard to believe we're we're only 2 months. We're about 2 months away from kickoff. We're almost. We're just about at the halfway point of this year, and this year is going by fast. So this is on ESPN. These are the current rankings, the current preseason rankings. And as you know, anything can change these. These can change with an injury, these can change with a player becoming ineligible. You know, the way this will all shake out by December, there's so many variables that can affect this. So right now, Georgia is ranked number one, even though they lost, I think they lost Stetson Bennett. They've probably got those two big tight ends back. We've crept into the number two spot. This is from May. Florida State is ranked number three. This is on ESPN, so this might vary. There might be other versions of this somewhere. USC is number four. Buckeye Alex's team is number five. Coach Saban's team is number six. Abdul Gaines' team number six. LSU is ranked number seven. Penn State is ranked number eight. Clemson is ranked number nine. Texas is ranked number 10. I'm just going to go. That's it. The top 10. Well, let's do 15. Tennessee is 11. Washington Huskies are 12. Notre Dame is 13. Utah is 14. Oregon is 15. You know what? Let's just do the whole 25. TCU. TCU is number 16. Oregon State is number 17. Kansas State is 18. Tulane is number 19. Texas Tech is number 20. North Carolina is number 21. Ole Miss is number 22. University of Texas San Antonio is number 23. The Kentucky Wildcats are number 24. And the Wisconsin Badgers are number 25. So any of this can change. These are the updated college football top 25 rankings, the spring edition. And again, any of this can change. If you go back to the 2021 season when Michigan resurrected itself and Michigan embarked on that unlikely dream comeback, we weren't even ranked at the beginning of the season. And Michigan gradually got in the top 25, and then we worked our way up. So anything can change. Okay, those are the top 25 rankings. And there are probably multiple versions of that. A quick update regarding the program. We know that Shemi Shemi Schembechler was asked to leave based upon his dealings on social media. Shout out to Buckeye Alex. Social media is trash. Okay. And I agree with that. And I tend to think of social media as a necessary evil. We're on social media right now, but the Wolverines have hired this younger gentleman. What's his name? Sam Popper. Sam Popper. He's taking over as a new assistant director of recruiting. So I'm pretty sure they checked his social media, but I want to implore everyone, be careful with your social media. You don't know who's watching. People are watching, even though you don't know that they're watching. My best friend, my Clipper guy shorts. My best friend just mentioned those to me two days ago. I didn't know he was watching. So people are watching. They're watching your YouTube. They're watching your Twitter. They're watching your Facebook. Sometimes I'm looking at some of the trash talk there in the chat. Buckeye Alex is already riling up my subscribers. They're watching your YouTube. People are watching your Twitter. They're watching your Facebook. I think Shemi Schembechler got in trouble on Twitter. People are watching what you're tweeting. They're watching what you're retweeting. They're watching who you're talking to. They're watching what you're liking. So be very, very careful about what you do with your social media, your Twitter in particular, because people are watching. Shout out to Buckeye Alex. Social media is trash. The depth chart. Let's go over the depth chart really, really quickly. Before I go over this, let's hear a word from one Brady Hoke. Since Buckeye Alex is coming up.
But I was not a fan of that university in Ohio because my buddies were. So I had to be different.
All right. I'm going to sprint through this really, really quickly. This is from M Go Fish. I didn't go over this in my May stream. So the offense, these are our projected starters. JJ at the quarterback, Blake and Donovan Edwards are projected to split the time at the tailback position. Cornelius Johnson and Roman Wilson are the projected starters at wide receiver. The slot receiver, number 8, Morris. I can't think of his first name. Number 89, Barner is predicted to be the starting tight end. I wonder why Colston Loveland is not there. That's interesting. Jefferson, Trevor Keegan, Nugent looks like he's replacing Oluwatimi, Zach Zinter, and Jones. I'm sorry, I don't know all these kids' first names, which is bad because this is a Michigan football channel. I should know all their first names by heart, but I don't. Some medications there. All right, so on defense, this is going position by position. I'm just going to go over the starters. Nose tackle, Mason Graham. And you're going to see a whole bunch of new names here. Number 26, Benny. Chris Jenkins, number 94. Moore, Jalen Harrell, Michael Barrett, Junior Colson. Those are all the linebackers. The will linebacker is Houseman. Houseman, can't think of his first name. Strong safety, number 7, Page. Free safety, number 19, Rod Moore. The cornerback, starting quarterback will be the front. Well, now he's going to be a sophomore phenom, number 2, Will Johnson. And then the other cornerback will be Wallace. And the nickelback will be number 0, Mike Sainristil. If you recall, Mike Sainristil made that clutch play against Ohio State against their tight end in the end zone where they thought he had it. That tight end, he had the ball, but Sainristil kept playing and he knocked it loose. All right, this is going over literally depth by every position. I'm not going to go over all these. Let's see our special teams. Let's see our kicker. Looks like it's going to be number 32, James Turner. So we're going to miss. Jake Moody. Jake Moody was clutch. Jake Moody won a lot of games for us and kept us in a lot of games over the last 2 seasons. So we're going to miss him. Hopefully this kid is clutch as well. And this kid, number 19, Tommy Doman, he's taking over for, I mean, whoever remembers the punter's name, but he had the cowboy mustache. If anyone knows the name of our punter last year, it's at the tip of my tongue, but he had the cowboy mustache. Okay. Those are our projected starters. Let me just go over the schedule really quickly, and then I'll bring our resident Buckeye up because I know that's who everyone is waiting for. Let's see. Alex, the link is here. All right. This year's schedule. Wolverines open up by hosting East Carolina, and then UNLV, September 2nd and September 9th, and then Bowling Green on September 16th, and then Big Ten play starts against Rutgers on September 23rd. I don't foresee an opening like that one Brady Hoke had, where Western Carolina was taking us down to the wire at home. I don't foresee that. So Michigan should end December. Michigan should finish September 4-0. All right. On September 30th, the Wolverines go out to Lincoln, Nebraska to play Nebraska. You know what? I've never been to Nebraska, so I'm thinking that's a maybe. Maybe I'll go out to Lincoln. I've never been to Lincoln. The Wolverines then go up to Minneapolis to play the Gophers. Again, I've never been to Minnesota. That sounds interesting. The Wolverines host Indiana on October 14th. They host they go up to Spartan Stadium on October 21st. I have been to East Lansing. It's a fun place to go. It's an older stadium. We'll see. Purdue, the Wolverines go out to West Lafayette they host the Boilermakers on November 4th. The Wolverines go out to Happy Valley to play Penn State. That's another maybe. That one is within a few hours of where I am right now. Let's see. The Wolverines come here to the DMV to play Maryland on November 18th. And then for #Thanksgiving 2023, we host Buckeye Alex's team. So that's the layout of the regular season schedule. Oh yeah, thank you. The SDB. Brad Robbins. I have so much information in my mind. It's hard for me to remember all of the names. Okay, Buckeye Alex is in the back. The Ohio State song is not public domain, so if I play it, I'll get a copyright strike. So instead, we'll just get a word from Ryan Day from last year. Playing with the edge.
We're off to a good start there. We still have a long way to go, but we still are building, we're growing. There's still a lot of things we need to get better at, a lot of things. But I think you can see that we're targeted, we're playing with an edge, running off the football.
All right, everyone. Without further ado, the man you came for, Buckeye Alex. What's going on, Alex?
Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too.
Okay, so where should we start?
Alex, take us wherever you want to go, man. Tell us how much you're going to beat us this year. Tell us how much better you are, how you're outdoing us on the recruiting trail. Let it rip.
No, I'll say this. So I think, I'm the first person, when you kind of started this a couple of years ago, that I was saying that it wasn't fun when we're beating Michigan, the team up north, by 35 points. It was a guaranteed win. Like, I was a person who was rooting to kind of bring that rivalry back. I know I was in the minority of that, but that's what I was rooting for. So check the receipts. I've always been in favor of that. With that being said, I think it's in a great place. I'm very excited for this year. A lot of uncertainty. I think this is probably one of the best Michigan teams I've seen in a long time. And you're starting to see that the resources matter, right? Resources matter. I think Jim Harbaugh getting defensive coaches from the Ravens. I think that's a great pipeline, not only for young coaches that are looking to kind of move ahead and see what they can do and then jump back to the NFL. I think that's a great place. And you can start to see Ohio State kind of mirror the same things where you're seeing, them bring in James Laurinaitis. You've seen them bring back the cornerbacks coach. His name's escaping me. So I think resources, matter, especially in the rivalry. So I think it's in a great place. I'm very excited for the season to kind of see what happens. Michigan, like I said, this is probably one of the best teams I've seen. I remember Michigan having probably like that Steve Bresden team with Steve Bresden and the guy who was a javelin thrower, Chris Henne, like that.
Chad Henne. So that's that team with Steve Breston. Well, he overlapped with John Navarre one year, and then he was with Chad Henne for
Chad Henne
3 of his years.
Yeah. So, those are really, really good teams. I think those teams easily could have competed for a national championship. Unfortunately, they didn't, but I think they were definitely good enough too. So, I'm very excited. I definitely think the recruiting trail has been interesting this year. You see Michigan kind of go out and shoot its shot for some big time 4 and 5 star recruits, similar recruits that Ohio State typically has gone for. We've had one, Jordan Marshall from the Cincinnati area. That was a top ranked running back in Ohio by some metric. And, they jumped in that recruit very, very early. Ohio State was late. And I think that just kind of goes to show where the rivalry is at currently, for Ohio kids and for kids that are kind of borderline up in that Toledo, northwest area. You kind of have to jump on those early. We end up losing him, but running back is a easily replaceable position, but you still never want to lose a kid from Ohio to Michigan. So that stung. They pivoted very quickly, and I think they understood they're really behind in that recruitment to kind of begin with. So that kind of is what it is. We'll see him in a couple of years. I've seen him play high school. He's a really, really good player. I really hate to lose him to the team up north, but it kind of is what it is. We just got two commitments from tight end from Glenville and Bryce West, who's a cornerback at Glenville as well. Demarion Witten, that's the kid's name. He's a tight end. Michigan was really in for both of those guys too, in Cleveland. So I think that was a Michigan-Ohio State battle. They both committed last weekend during their recruiting visits at Ohio State. And we're waiting on Aaron Scott, who I believe is going to announce his decision on, I want to say, July 3rd. And he is a complete lockdown corner, very similar to who was the kid who was a Michigan legacy but was going to go to Ohio State. I can't remember his name.
Was it Will Johnson?
Will Johnson, yeah. So he's very similar to Will Johnson. I think he's like a top 5 safety in the class. I'm sorry, top 5 corner in the class. Very dominant player. When you turn on the film, it's kind of boring because nothing ever gets thrown his way because he just shuts the field down. He shuts that side of the field down with his receiver. He's very, very good. So I know Michigan is really, really into that. Like I think that recruitment's neck and neck. So I guess we're kind of just waiting to see what happens with that recruitment. I think he's announcing on his dad's birthday, if I remember correctly. So I think it's July 3rd or July 7th, one of those two, somewhere around there. So that recruitment's really, really interesting. That's going to be kind of telling because I think, for everybody who understands the rivalry, typically the rule is that even though both programs are now recruiting nationally, the team that kind of wins the state of Ohio definitely wins the rivalry. So, if you start to see that trend, then that's not necessarily a good thing for the Buckeyes.
Okay. So we definitely have a bit more of a recruiting war than we had for a number of years where the teams are competing for recruits.
Absolutely. And I think that goes to what Michigan has done. I'd say the past 3, not even the last 2 years, really the last 3 years. I think that year that we talked about that we thought Harbaugh should have been let go. And then we had COVID basically the year after that, right? I think that particular year there was a lot of soul searching. I personally believe that he kind of used all of his resources and found a love kind of for coaching and the game. Cause I honestly on the sideline, I really didn't see it. Stop, dude. Like I can't even comment on that. Like he has no idea what he's talking about. But I think that was a huge turning point. I think they were building something. I think it was going to take a while just because of how bad Brady Hoke left the program in. Like the position he left the program in was terrible, right? So there was a lot of building there, and it's not like taking a program over today where you have the transfer portal that does not count against you if you're transferring. It kind of took a while to kind of get that thing up and running, almost like turning the ship around in the middle of the sea. It's not easy. You can't just turn around. It takes a lot of manpower to turn a ship around. So, I definitely think him staying was the ultimate right decision, even though I disagreed with that. So that, that is what it is. But I think they're building something special. I think they're in a really, really good place. I think their facilities are attractive. The NIL is in a really good place. It's attractive. And the program, it's interesting. I think they're probably maybe still a couple years away from winning a national championship. I think matchups do matter. So I think, for instance, Michigan is a better matchup for a team like Ohio State, just kind of the way they're built, their identity. It's a bad matchup for Ohio State, but it's also a bad matchup for a team like Georgia or a team like Alabama, where Ohio State's able to spread the field, spread them out, and attack them. I think Ohio State's a better matchup for Georgia than Michigan would be. So I think to kind of take that next step, for Michigan to win a national championship, I'd probably say they maybe a year or two away. And I think they've been doing a heck of a job on the recruiting trail. So I think the better players that they're going to bring in, I think to compete with teams like Georgia, you have to really bring in those, like that top tier talent. You can't really depend on developing 3 and low 4-star players to win a national championship. We just haven't seen that before. But listen, they're hitting the recruiting trail really hard. They're going after some of those guys, and I think they're going to land them this cycle for sure. I think they're going to have probably a top 3 class this cycle, and that's going to bode well for the chances to win a national championship in the future.
Yeah. Well, going back to what you said about Jim having to find the love for the game again, there were some difficult aspects there, like choosing, getting the right quarterback in there. He took a transfer in Jake Rudock, and then he inherited Wilton Spate, and then he took in John O'Corn, and then he took in Shea Patterson. So there was a lot of instability at quarterback. Brandon Peters got in there and got knocked out within 3 games.
Yeah.
And then Joe, one of your favorite quarterbacks, Super Joe, got in, had his chance on an off year. And then the most unlikely quarterback got in there after him, helped turn the program around. And then he got things didn't shake out well for him. So there was the quarterback thing. And then there was the defense. Don's defense was good against lesser opponents, but against you guys, against Alabama, against Florida, his defenses got shredded.
Right.
So yeah. I think Jim had to rethink what he was doing and how he was doing it. And going back to your point about winning the whole thing, well, we talked about that. There's winning the Big Ten, and then once you step on the even bigger stage, how are you going to do against opponents from the SEC or the Big 12?
Right.
So I think that's last year. I mean, that first year against Georgia, we were just overmatched. This year against TCU, I lay that at the feet of the coaching staff. And their preparation and their game planning for that.
I think that's an interesting point. Not to cut you off. I think TCU and Michigan are actually pretty well matched teams. I believe, and I'm not inside the Michigan locker room, but just watching that game, kind of seeing how it played out. I think beating Ohio State in Ohio State, you assume that you're going to go in and beat TCU on a neutral field, and TCU came to play, and they were like, "Oh snap! Like these guys are really trying to like." They came to play, so then by that time it was it was too late to turn it on. I think if we don't know what would have happened if Michigan would have came out not as flat as they did to start the game, kind of where that game could have went. So. That's tough, but I think that's part of winning. Also, I think that's part of the journey of winning a national championship or attempting to win a national championship, or really any championship for that matter, is once you beat the team that you don't think you can beat. What do you do? It's kind of like uncharted territory. Like, what do you do next? Okay, yeah. Everybody knows Ohio State was better than TCU. I think everybody fairly would probably agree with that. And I think that the way last year went, I think everybody can assume that the team up north is better than Ohio State. They can agree with that. So if you kind of put 2 and 2 together, they should steamroll TCU, but that's not what happened. And then you kind of have to look at, okay, why did that happen? And I think that could be part of the story as to why they weren't able to beat TCU last year.
So a couple things. And Abdul, I see you there, so I have your Nick Saban drop ready for you. But before I play that, couple things, Alex. So there was the Philly special, which was atrocious. There was the goal line fumble, right? With all of that, Michigan still had the ball back with like a minute or
feels like 2 minutes left, I think.
Like 2 minutes. So They were still in position to win that game. But the team wasn't used to playing from behind like that. I don't think the offense was. The defense certainly wasn't. They weren't used to getting gashed. We hadn't gotten gashed like that all season. But shout out to Johnny Olden. The offensive coaching staff probably adjusted too late in terms of using JJ's legs. So what I'm saying is, to win against an opponent you're unfamiliar with, your coaching staff has to think on the fly and make those adjustments on the fly. And you can't just go into a game saying, this is what we do. We're going to pound them into submission. This is what we do. This is how we play. And this is we're going to pound this lesser opponent into submission. And I think, TCU, they seeded TCU number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they I don't want to say they backed their way in, but that was arguably, one of those spots was arguably USC's. So Michigan might have underestimated them as well.
That's correct. So I think if USC would not have got blown up by Utah, they got their butts kicked by Utah. I definitely think USC would have been in that spot. And actually, here's the thing: I don't think Ohio State gets in if USC wins that game. I think
Really?
I don't think they do. I think it's Georgia 1, Michigan 2, USC, probably TCU 3, and USC 4. I don't think Ohio State gets in if Utah doesn't win that game. I don't think they do.
Okay. Gotta play something for Abdul here.
Well, the number one thing for me, Nick Saban, all right, whatever anybody thinks, is to be a good person. Honesty, integrity, loyalty, being fair and honest with people, all right, has always been the trademark of what I've done.
Man, that sounds really familiar, doesn't it? Being a good person, just being a good human. Sounds real familiar, doesn't it?
It does. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. Year 2 of Jim Knowles.
Mm-hmm.
Does the defense significantly improve, or what's with you guys on the other side of the ball?
I think it's interesting. I think it's very similar. I'm glad you asked that question. It's very similar to the Tom Brown question, where, I mean, from an Ohio State perspective, to kind of project out where we could go, you kind of have to take a step back and look at where we were at. I think we had 3 defensive coordinators in 3 years. A lot of instability on that side of the football. I think Ryan Day made a mistake hiring Kerry Combs. As much as I love Kerry Combs, he's an Ohio guy through and through. But I think he is a position coach. He's not a coordinator. So that was a mistake on his part, and he definitely learned from that very quickly. So I think in year 2 of Jim Knowles, I think that a couple of things. You have to get into players that fit your scheme, right? I think that's a big piece of it. I also believe that Jim Knowles was not used to coaching in these big games that possibly have playoff or championship ramifications, like national championship ramifications. So I think there's a learning. I think there was a learning curve for him there. Recruiting wise, we're doing well on the recruiting show. I think we're in for some really good safeties. I know KJ Bolden, who's down in Georgia, who happens to be a cousin of one of the position coaches at Ohio State, Perry Eliano. I think we're battling Georgia for him, even though he's in Georgia. So they have some other players that they're in for as well. So I think getting his players in that fit his scheme, I think, is important, because I don't think Ohio State necessarily had those players. And I think understanding when anytime you're fitting in a new defense or offense, regardless of whatever sport you play, there's always going to be a learning curve. And typically in year 2, you're no longer thinking, you're just reacting, and that allows you to play a lot faster. Now, with that being said, even with the game last year, if people just happen to not play, he made a lot of mistakes. The way he called the game, being a little too aggressive, calling basically a zero blitz on
Zero coverage
on a 3rd and long, which I would never do in a million years, having coached football. I would never do that. And, also just guys being in the right position. I saw that on a couple Edwards runs last year. He just gashed us because we just weren't in the right position. It's just basically what, if you're not gap sound, you're going to, no matter what level you play at, if it's college, if it's NFL, if it's, Pop Warner, Pee Wee, if you're not in the right position, guy's going to run 80 yards. That's just what it is. So I'm hoping that, they kind of learn from that and they play faster and not necessarily have to think the game. I think also, I think everybody, at least from the Ohio State beat, agrees that Larry Johnson did not do a very good job playing the best players on a defensive line. I think his idea was that he has 8 starters, and I don't think anybody agrees with that. I think the 2 best players did not play on the interior last year, and I think we also had another defensive end playing out of position. So I'm hoping that those things will get corrected with, kind of within the scheme of what Jim Knowles wants to do, and that the guys will kind of be ready to go. So I'm hoping that they take a step forward. I'm assuming that they would. I think that the major thing is to cut down on the big plays. I think Jim Knowles' defense is designed to allow like 2 or 3 big plays, but not allow those big plays to turn into scores. And that's kind of what happened last year. They turned into scores, especially in the Georgia game. So, which I think stopped them from winning a national championship, regardless of our 2 best offensive players and not having a starting running back in that game, which is kind of crazy to kind of think about. I think a lot of it lands on Jim Knowles in that game, and I think a lot of it lands on Ryan Day once we're up in the third quarter, not putting your foot on the gas and just kind of turning it up, just relying on the defense. So I think all in all, to answer your question, I think they'll take a step ahead. I'm hoping that they play a lot faster. Those guys that Larry Johnson played last year are now gone. They were undrafted free agents in the NFL. They didn't even get drafted. So we'll see. I think they're very, very talented on a defensive line. I think they're very talented, especially at the safety position, at the linebacker position. So I'm really excited to kind of see what they decide to do with the players that they have, because they have a lot of unique skill sets on the defensive side of the ball.
Okay. Now, yeah, so those 2 80-yard runs by Donovan Edwards. Yeah, I was watching the game, and I was just hoping for us to escape with the win. And when he ripped those off, I was like, wow. I was surprised. I was like, wow. I haven't seen something like this in a long time from our program. Like, yeah, this is great, but I will concede that to you. That was most likely because of they weren't gap sound.
No, they weren't, and they know that. I mean, listen, it's a tough loss. It is what it is. I think keep in mind, I know some people think about football like one play, winner loses a game. It doesn't. Every team plays offense and defense multiple times throughout the game. So there are a lot of things that even Ohio State didn't necessarily do. I mean, they couldn't get in the end zone in that game. So, even if you allow those big plays, if they score 2 of those touchdowns in the second and third quarter, they get in the end zone, they probably pull away with that win. But I think they got really, really tight in the second half. I think they played, offensively, they got very, very tight, very conservative. And one thing I do like is I think to kind of your point, switching kind of what you do on the fly, I think they went to JJ running the football in the second half of those games. In the second half of that game last year, he ran the ball a lot more by himself. He had a really, really tough run. I want to say it was like maybe 30, 35 yards down the right sideline where he broke like 4 or 5 tackles. And I was like, man, listen, this guy, he might not be the best thrower in the world, but he's a gamer. Like he comes like he like some kids, they're just winners, and he was going to do whatever he wanted to do. And I think that's the difference really between him and CJ Stroud last year, is that he was willing to do any and everything to win that game. And I did not see that from CJ Stroud last year until the Georgia game.
All right, Alex, I got a quick JJ McCarthy question. Hold on a second.
I feel like the efficiency was definitely there, but we had that one drive I think it's the second drive of the game where we went 3 and out, and that one was on me. So that one kind of haunts me, but I thought we played pretty well in the first half.
All right, I want to ask you about your Ohio State quarterback, because CJ Stroud is in the league. You said JJ's not a good thrower. His mechanics? Is it? What is it? You are hard on JJ McCarthy.
No, listen. He to me is very similar to Stetson Bennett. He's not a natural thrower of the football. That's
okay.
So when I say natural thrower of the football, I'm saying like his arm talent is not at the level of some other quarterbacks. But I will say this: so other players aren't willing to do any and everything to win a football game, regardless of if they have the better arm talent or not. And that's what really separates him from a lot of quarterbacks. Like I said, he's very, very similar to Stetson Bennett. I think they're very, very similar players. They're not world beaters when it comes to throwing the football, but they make plays to win games. So they might not necessarily be like a projected number 1 overall pick, but if you put them in a game, they will do any and everything that they can for their team to win. And those are two very, very different things. And I think people misunderstand that when you're talking about quarterbacks. There are quarterbacks like, say, Justin Fields, right? Natural throw of the football, can run, will do any and everything to win a football game. He has the complete package. I think everybody will agree that Justin Fields was a better throw of the football than J.J. McCarthy. I think we can all agree on that. But the difference is that with J.J. McCarthy and somebody like the quarterback that we had last year, he never put his body on the line. He never ran. I mean, he would stay in the pocket forever. He never tried to create plays. When things broke down, he just took a sack or tried to throw the football away. He was very, I would almost say, like, mechanical. And that's great. I mean, granted, he can make every throw on the football field, but if you make every throw on the football field and you're still losing, what does it matter? Because you're not winning. So to me, it's kind of like he's more like of a Jay Cutler, where he can make every throw. He can zip it 50 yards down the field. He can drop it on a dime between 2 defenders, 55 yards down the field. But if you're not making plays to win, what does it matter at the end of the day?
Right.
I think JJ does that, and I think CJ Stroud just didn't.
It sounds like the timeless parable of the Heisman Trophy winner not necessarily being a winning NFL quarterback. Might have that. He might have all the measurables, but he might not be a winner.
Correct.
Necessarily.
Correct.
Okay. Well, you have some agreement here. Kenneth Joy says, "I agree with your assessment." Okay. So Alex, we're running up against the 1 o'clock hour. I want to be respectful of your time. Talk about talk about this year's signal caller for you guys.
So more likely it's going to be Kyle McCord. Which he's been in the program. This is his 3rd year. He was Marvin Harrison Jr.'s teammate in high school. He was rated higher than J.J. McCarthy. I mean, everybody kind of knows this story where we had a choice between J.J. McCarthy and Kyle McCord. Ryan Day chose Kyle McCord. Now, I will say, I think the first spring game that I ever watched him, he basically bombed a 60-yard reception to the guy who plays now for the Jets. His name's escaping me. But I think he's good. I think he's good. Is he a Justin Fields? Is he a Dwayne Haskins? Where those guys will just do any and everything? I don't know. I mean, we just have to kind of wait and see. He had one start last year against Akron. Wasn't world beating, but it's Akron. So shout out to my hometown. So we'll just have to wait and see. I really don't know what to expect from him. I do know the gentleman behind him is more of a hybrid between – he's more like the J.J. McCarthy, but a little bit better arm talent from what scouts have said regarding the recruiting services. So the guy can run. He can throw. He can make every throw. He just kind of got behind due to injury. So I think Kyle McCord is going to be the projected starter. And I think if he just doesn't mess up, I think we're in a good place to kind of let him grow because of the weapons that Ohio State has on offense. So I think barring injury, there would probably be, again, like a top 2, top 3 offensive team in the country.
Okay. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is back.
Yes.
So you guys have your skill position players.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming, Emeka Egbuka, Jaden Ballard, Xavier Johnson, Travion Henderson's healthy, Maya Williams is healthy, Evan Pryor, who we lost last year. I think he should be back healthy by the start of the season. I don't think he's been cleared yet. We also had a freshman, Dallin Hayden, who basically played a lot of snaps against Michigan. We had Chip Trainum, who transferred from Arizona State, led them in rushing 2 years ago was supposed to come in and be a linebacker, but because of injury, we had to put him back at running back. So he was the primary running back in the game against Georgia as well. Tight end, we still have Kate Stover, Joy Warrior, G. Scott. Like those guys are back out. The concern really for Ohio State is going to be on the offensive line. We went out and got a couple transfers. We had 3 guys go to the NFL. 2 of them probably should not have went, but kind of is what it is. So, I think trying to get cohesiveness and get the best 5 on the offensive line, I think is probably the most important question going into this season.
Okay. Now, with the few minutes we have left, so it looks like both teams are reloading at the quarterback position, because you guys have a young guy who's pretty good. We have a young guy who's pretty good. Have you been watching any of that?
Yeah.
Jaden Davis. We got Jaden Davis.
You got Jaden Davis, and we got Aaron Nolan. I know they just competed in the Elite 11, and I heard Aaron Nolan just put on a show. I think the guy Julian Sayin ended up winning the Elite 11, who's going to Alabama, and I think Dylan Raiola came in second, and Aaron Nolan came in third. And I think the quarterback from FSU, Grunkemeyer, came in fourth, and I want to say Jaden Davis came in fifth. So I mean, listen, once you kind of get in that position, you're really just splitting hairs regarding like quarterbacks. I mean, I'd much rather go with height. I think Jaden Davis is only like 6 foot. I think Aaron Nolan's like 6'3", even though he's a lefty. The ball bends the opposite way when you're throwing that way, so it's obviously going to be an adjustment for receivers. But I think all in all, I think Ohio State kind of pivoted very quickly. They got a top player, top quarterback in the state of Georgia. I'd probably say top 5 player at that position. So I think they pivoted very quickly. I think they could have had Jaden Davis. They chose Dylan Raiola, obviously, who wouldn't. But you can kind of see like there's a lot of instability there with Dylan Raiola and his camp. So I think once he decided he wanted to decommit, that they tried to get back in on Jaden Davis, and I think he was already I think the team up north was already ahead in that recruitment.
Okay. All right. We are just up on an hour. I want to respect your schedule. Do you have anything else for this meeting of the minds?
Yeah. So, let's maybe try to get back in right before the season starts. Definitely want to take a look at some of the recruiting. I know Ohio State and Michigan are in on similar prospects on the defensive line. I think Elijah can't remember the guy's name. This is the guy he's from Cincinnati, but he's actually down in my neck of the woods down in Florida, who I think is going to end up picking Michigan. But then there's another guy from Chicago, defensive lineman, who Marquise Lightfoot, I think is his name, who is kind of crystal ball to Ohio State. And I think Ohio State is in on the other recruitment as well. There's also Dylan Stewart, who's looking at Michigan, Ohio State, South Carolina, Georgia. So I think maybe we can kind of circle back in a couple weeks and kind of see where those recruitments kind of end at, because I know we're in a dead period right now. So for the rest of the month. So shout out to the coaches who worked their butts off in the month of June. Hopefully they're spending time with their families.
Yeah, I say, hey, as many of these as we can do before kickoff, let's do them as our schedules permit. There are some more comments here. Someone took issue with your JJ McCarthy synopsis. Blue Dove PDX says last year JJ threw for 3 TDs against OSU. Stroud had 2. I disagree with that take on JJ's arm.
Look at his statistics below 10 yards and above 10 yards, and then we can come back and have that conversation. That's where it comes from one game. It comes from an entire season. And the touchdowns don't matter if the touchdowns are 6 yards, 10 yards. CJ Stroud threw for almost 500 yards that game. So, and they lost. So that I'm not just looking at one game. I'm looking at what he did for an entire season.
Okay. Well, I think he turned the corner. Something happened late in that Illinois game because Blake went out with a knee injury, and it was looking pretty bleak. But JJ made a couple of plays at the end of that game. I mean, of course, Jake Moody, we wouldn't win that game without Jake Moody.
Jake Moody is a monster.
But I think there was a huge growth spurt, I think, at the end of that game for him.
Maybe. I mean, here's the thing. I really didn't even see it in the Ohio State game where he wasn't lining them up all over the field. That's not what that was. And that's not what they do, and I don't think that's what he does. I think, again, he's very, very similar to Stetson Bennett, where when you need him to make plays, he can make plays. I'm not saying don't take it like I say he's the worst quarterback in the world. What I'm saying is that from an arm talent perspective, he's not top tier. That's what I'm saying. But is he a top tier quarterback? I think he's up there. I think regardless of wherever he goes, he was going to win. I think that because that's just the kind of player that he is. I mean, we can see that. But I think if you're saying he's a better quarterback than C.J. Stroud and has better arm talent because he threw 3 touchdowns and C.J. Stroud only threw 2, that's just. I mean, if you look at C.J. Stroud's season versus J.J. McCarthy's season, and if you look at the percentages below 10 yards, above 10 yards, above 20 yards, then you can kind of see the difference. You can kind of see a difference in and if you just watch the film, it's just not there. I mean, I think the best throw that he threw all season was that out route on 0 coverage. And if somebody doesn't miss a tackle, he only has 2 touchdowns. Then we're talking about. So that's not JJ didn't throw him open. The guy missed the tackle and the receiver got open. That's not on JJ. That's on the move that the receiver makes, and that's also on lack of discipline on the defender's part. So there's much more that goes into that analysis besides how many touchdowns one person has in a game.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you one more because I know you probably have to run. Let's see. The SDB is grinding his axe for you. He says the Buckeye system requires them to throw a lot, and their trenches suffer. Michigan can beat teams in all 3 phases.
That's not true. Like when you listen, when you are down to like your 4th and 5th string running back, come talk to me. Then come talk to me. Like that's what Ohio State was trotting out the last 2 years. I mean, we had Still Chambers the year before was playing running back who was a linebacker, like in Ann Arbor. Like for some reason, and it could be a coaching staff issue. I honestly do not know, but for some strange reason, at the end of the season, Ohio State running backs are just they have not been healthy the past 2 years. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that new turf that they put in that all the NFL players got injured on. I don't know, but when they first put it in, our top 3 running backs got injured like 1, 2, 3, like boom, boom, boom. One out for the year, and the other one basically had to get surgery. The last 2 had to get surgery in the offseason. And they were nicked up the whole year to the point where they couldn't even play in the Michigan game, which means it was pretty bad. So when you're out there running a linebacker at running back, like that's just listen. I'm not making excuses, but like if you're saying we can't run the football as well as Michigan does when Michigan has 2 of their starters and Ohio State's down to the 4th and 5th running back, I mean that's just a little silly in my opinion to kind of make that comment. Because obviously the 4th and 5th guy aren't going to be better than the top 3 or top 2 players on your team. I think everybody would agree on that, regardless of what team it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Alex, I don't want to keep you here because they're going to keep coming for you.
Let them.
All right, I'll give you one more.
Let them come.
He's the SDB, and then I got to wrap up soon. He says
okay.
JJ didn't need to sling it like Stroud because Michigan was balanced. Unlike those overrated running backs at Ohio State, also CJ threw for 349 yards.
That's it. Are they balanced? I mean, if you call balance running for 220 a game and JJ throwing for 200 yards a game, if you want to call that. Listen, balance got you waxed by TCU. So it doesn't matter if you're balanced or not. It matters how you execute. None of that stuff matters. It doesn't matter. Like
we weren't balanced against TCU. They shut our running game down.
That I know. But what his point is that they're balanced, so they're better. My point is, if you're balanced or not, if somebody shuts one thing down, you have to go to something else. It's how you execute in your game plan. It's how you execute throughout the course of the game. Nothing else really matters. Like what the structure of your team is doesn't matter. Because if Ohio State says we're going to throw the ball 50 times a game, are you going to stop us? And they win every game outside of like 2, and the one that you lost, your 2 best offensive weapons got hurt. You're down to your 4th and 5th running back in the game, and you sit there and say, "Oh, well, they can't run the football." Would they really have? Okay, I'll play into that. Would they really have needed to if Marvin Harrison and Cade Stover don't get hurt and they win that Georgia game and then they go on to win a national championship? Would that even matter if they're balanced or not? Probably not. Probably doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, you guys. You guys are gonna keep going back and forth with Alex, and I have some more things.
I love it. And listen, this is the reason. This is the reason why it's great to have these discussions on both sides. Because listen, we're both passionate. We both believe what we believe. We can chirp back and forth, and at the end of the day, it's all good. We want our teams to win. I want Ohio State to win. You guys want Michigan to win. I don't know why you would, but you do. And listen, it's great. It's great for the rivalry. I do want to end on something. I'm really hoping that with the Big Ten expansion, that the rivalry doesn't turn into something like Alabama and Auburn, where it's kind of like
it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's kind of flat. I'm really hoping that does. I don't believe that it will, because as much as I disagree with the fans up north, I love them all the same. I love their passion. They have passion for their for the team that they root for, just like I have passion for Ohio State, who I root for. So I'm hoping that, kind of like the dialogue that we can have, the kind of going back and forth and all that. I hope that never ever goes away. I really don't.
Same here.
As much as I love Big Ten expansion, I think it's necessary to keep up with other leagues and other conferences. What I mean is, so I think it's necessary, but I just hope that we can keep some things kind of like true to who the Big Ten is. I'm hoping that happens.
Same here. Alex, before you run, let's do this real quickly. Let's just go over your opponents. So you guys, let's go here. So you guys start with Indiana.
Yep, Youngstown State,
Western Kentucky. Then your first big test is Notre Dame.
Yep.
You guys are at Notre Dame this year. You hosted them last year. Then Maryland,
Maryland at
Purdue,
home.
Penn State, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Michigan State, Minnesota, and then us. So are you guys predicting going into the big game undefeated?
That's the plan. I think that's the plan every year, is to go undefeated going into the game, and then kind of letting everything kind of lay out and play out from there. I think the Notre Dame game is going to be interesting. I don't think Michigan's really going to be tested until they play Ohio State. But I think Sam Hartman going to Notre Dame, that's a big time move for Marcus Freeman. I think Sam Hartman's he's a heck of a quarterback. He's really, really good. And I like what he's doing up there. So that's going to be a tough game. I think the toughest games are probably going to be that. I think we'll be fine against Penn State at home. And then obviously the Michigan game. So I think you guys really don't play anybody. I think you should be favored by double digits in every game. And then we'll just see at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think I mean, this is basic. It's basic. It's gonna come down to
You don't play Iowa this year.
no. Unless we run into them in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, listen, you guys.
That would be, the media would sensationalize that so much.
Yeah, because we lost.
An Eric Hall.
Yeah, so with the amount of recruiting that Brian Hartline does at the wide receiver position, we actually lost a kid from Texas, Caleb Burton, who transferred to Iowa.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so they're trying to load up.
They're trying to load up. Listen, and shout out to them. I've said this for a long time. If they could figure out what they want to do on offense, they would have won a national championship by now, because their defense, defense play today, it's not designed to stop. It's designed to allow your offense to outscore the other team.
Yeah.
And I mean, it happened. I mean, even last year, Iowa's defense against Michigan and Ohio State was unbelievable. And I don't even know where they get these kids from, but their scheme, which is, basically almost what Jim Knowles runs, but way better. They have one of the best defenses I've seen in the last 10 years next to Georgia. So they Kirk Ferentz. That's Kirk Ferentz, right? Who's out there?
He's the head coach. I think his son is the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Kirk Ferentz. Whatever defense that they're running out there under him, or with his defensive staff, they just need to keep. Listen, if they really figure it out on offense, we're in trouble, because if they just keep doing what they're doing on defense, they are going to be very, very hard to beat. And I'm saying if they could score 28 points a game, they'll win every game.
Okay. So you guys don't have them in the regular season either.
No. Luckily, thank goodness, because I don't want to see them with a first-year quarterback.
Okay.
I'll punt on that one.
Well, over on the East, I think it goes back to health. I think it's going to come down to which teams are healthy at the end of the whole thing, and which pieces are still there, because that always seems to define what happens at the end.
Yeah, and listen, and that's medical staff, that's coaching staff,
that's luck,
right? I think a lot of it is coaching as well. Like, I think if you're, I think one thing that a lot of people had an issue with last year, even though it's like the last 2 years, Ohio State couldn't get up in a game. They couldn't blow a team out to get the second string in, to make sure that the starters didn't get hurt. And I think that's a fair criticism. I think that's a fair criticism of any team that's trying to win a national championship. When you're playing a team that you would be considered, double-digit favorite in against, you get up in that game, and then you get your starters out, and then from there you get your second string in. Your second string build your depth kind of as the season goes along. All those things, and they did not do they haven't done a very good job of that the last 2 years. So, that could be why, the running backs have gotten hurt and the linebackers have gotten hurt, and, things like that. Because I believe we didn't even have a tight end when we played in Ann Arbor. We had a linebacker playing tight end as well. So, we definitely have had some health issues, regardless of who we're playing at the end of the year. So they definitely need to do a better job with managing that on their end.
Okay. All right, Alex, do you have anything else?
Yeah, listen, everybody have a safe 4th, have a safe holiday. Hope everybody has safe fun, and enjoys the holiday. We're celebrating America. So shout out to the land, and just be safe, be a good human. That at the end of the day,
be a good human.
Be a good human. That's all that matters.
Now, before you go, I'm going to say this about JJ and the offense. The other possibility, and I want to speak this into existence, the other possibility is they could take a step backwards, because after Chad Henne's freshman year, I think everybody was expecting just everything to explode his sophomore year. They took a step backwards. Maybe because Braylon Edwards went to the NFL, but yeah, I remember that happening because I was there.
I think it's possible. I don't think it's probable, but it's possible, especially with you having, both those running backs there. I mean, you obviously want to give them the ball. as much as you can. I think that's Michigan's identity, to really just beat you up physically, pound the ball, play tough defense, make you make mistakes defensively, and just be a tough, sound football team. So I think that's what they are. And I think if you kind of divert from that, I think it's a mistake. I think it's gotten you this far. I think there are obviously steps that you need to take forward if you want to play on the national stage, and play for not necessarily a Big Ten championship, but a national championship. I think, and I kind of spoke to that earlier, but I could see that. I don't really believe that, because I believe that regardless of whatever happens in the game, JJ is going to do whatever he needs to do to win the game. It does. I think with him, one thing that I appreciate, play style does not matter as long as they get the W.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you win by 20 or if you win by 2.
Yep. And this year he would have had a full off season. There's no quarterback controversy at the beginning.
There really wasn't a quarterback controversy last year. Let's just be honest. There wasn't. He was going to be the starter. Everybody knew it. I knew it. I didn't like it because I felt like if you win a Big Ten championship,
should be your job.
It should be your job. Period. That's just how I'm going to stay. I'm going to die on that hill. But it just is what it is. I think he was already going to be the starter. I think if Cade was out there like Tom Brady, it would not have mattered. JJ was going to be the starter regardless.
Wow.
Just the more explosive, more athletic player.
Okay. All right, Alex. Well, I need to wrap up here. So thank you.
Of course. Anytime. We'll talk soon.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, everyone. I have to wrap up here. Thank you for those of you who watched. I'm going to do this really, really quickly. For the readers out there, I am a writer and I have a newsletter. I do more than just this, and I'm working on a sports related book. There's a 2-paragraph reading there, and there is a subscription button there at the bottom. You just click that and it takes you to that form there. You're under no pressure to do this. I heard a lot of YouTube viewers don't read anyway. Someone said that, but for marketing purposes, that's there. I'm always looking for more names. Blue Dove PDX says, Harbaugh said it's going to be about 50-50 run pass. JJ isn't going to take a step back. JJ is the best. JJ was the best option last year. 2021 was irrelevant. That's true. I would agree with that. In a competitive program and on a team that's trying to win, players have to compete for their spots every year. That's the way sports should be. You shouldn't just, unless you're Michael Jordan or Tom Brady, you shouldn't just have your job handed to you. So I agree with that. And Cade, JJ had gears and dimensions that Cade did not have. So, all right, everyone. We have a Buckeye here. He says, hummus hero. I like hummus too. Hummus is good. It's one of those healthy, tasty snacks. Blue Dove PDX, there was no excuse for last year. The Buckeyes just got beat. All right. Everyone, hummus hero, I don't think I recall seeing you before. If you're new, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And everyone, if you're watching on the playback, please smash that like button. If you want to donate something to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are below in the description box. You can also leave a super thanks. And with that, everyone, as Alex said, enjoy your holiday weekend. Stay safe out there. Don't do anything dumb. Don't do anything stupid. Enjoy some barbecue. Enjoy some beer. Enjoy the fireworks. And we will see you again soon. So with that, as always, remember, go blue. And your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.